Welcome to our presentation about our experience in Oaxaca, Mexico. I'm Dylan, and then that's Connor, and we're going to kind of talk you through what we got to see there. So we're going to start off with sort of getting there and what we saw at first. So Connor, what'd you think of our crib?
So we got in around 3, 4 o'clock on Saturday, and the outside of our house looked kind of normal compared to the surrounding city. It was yellow and it kind of stood out, but not too much. We met our host family right away. We met someone who we just called Abuela. Everyone in the house just called Abuela. She was super nice, super welcoming. She led us upstairs to our little kind of apartment, I guess you could say. And in this apartment, we each were lucky enough to have our own rooms. We had our own bathroom. We had like little living room and a little kitchen. Um, Here you can also see a selfie of me with Valeria, who was a member of our host family. She was super nice, and she kind of helped me unpack. Didn't help Dylan though that day. So it was um it was a good time. And I think we settled in really smoothly on Saturday.
Right, and then the purple house you see there, the right is Abuela's house, and then that's where we had breakfast every morning at 7 a.m. and then La Comida at around like 2 to 2:30, which is their big meal of the day. And then on the left is what's it's like right next to the Zocalo, which is right in front of the big church they have there in town, and that's sort of where most of the action happens in town. And then for our first week of clinical rotations, I was at a Hospital Civil, and then I was spending most of my time with the two physical therapist students you see there. To the left is Javier, to the right is Fernando. And they were kind of just, let me meet patients. It was a really unique experience just to be able to kind of converse with the patients in the hospital, get to understand why they were there and how healthcare is just how it's different because we were at a hospital, a free hospital, so it didn't cost anything, but obviously the care is not going to be as good as someone who's privately insured.
For my first week, I went to the Adzompa clinic, which was about a 30-minute taxi drive. Um, on the first day, initially, no one in my clinical rotation group spoke proficient Spanish. So when we got there, we were kind of out of place. We didn't really know who to talk to, figure out what we were doing. And eventually, we got thrown into a meeting with a bunch of nursing students. Um, we initially felt really out of place, but about halfway through the day after that meeting had ended, all the nursing students came up to us and started introducing themselves. And we tried talking to them in the best way that we could and sharing little tidbits about our culture and about our families and stuff. And that was a really cool experience. It was really cool to kind of break the ice with people and see how similar we were, despite the language and cultural barriers. So we made some friends, and after that first day, we split off into little groups and we went around the town taking I guess you could call it like a census,
Mhm.
where we went up to different houses around the town and we asked them about their family history, their vaccination history, and just kind of their general health history. You can see here in the middle that there is a picture of me and my group walking around. It was a very rural town, very poor, and it was really cool to kind of see how people in that town lived and how they carried out their day-to-day activities. So it was definitely a lot to be walking around, but it was a very good experience. Really cool relationships made with all the nursing students, as you can see in that picture on the left. So
And then our first excursion, we went to Monte Alban, which was sort of ruins of kind of the ancient culture that had lived on top of that hill. We were told that there used to be sort of buildings on they're not called pyramids, but they're just whatever at the top of those things. And then when the Spanish came, hunting for gold, they destroyed everything there. But it was a really unique experience to be able to kind of walk around ancient ruins, especially in Mexico, just to get to see kind of what life was like thousands of years ago, and just how different it was to realize that you would get married maybe at like 10 years old and living at 25 made you old. So we're both approaching old age here. So I definitely was pretty intrigued by what I saw there.
And then on Sunday that weekend, me and Dylan got up kind of early and we made our way to the center of town to the Santo Domingo Church,
Yeah.
which is kind of what the whole city is kind of centered around. And that was both of ours first times inside, and we were lucky enough to go during mass. And it was honestly probably one of the most beautiful churches I've ever seen on the inside. You
Hmm.
can kind of see in that picture with the ceilings being all intricate and decorated and painted, and it was yeah, it was honestly breathtaking, and it was kind of cool to again kind of develop ourselves um, in the local culture, go to mass, kind of see what everything's about. Definitely another really cool experience.
And then my second week was spent in Zompa, pretty much doing the same thing as Connor, walking around and helping with a survey. And so I was actually getting to go door to door and like I would talk to the people, which I thought was just it was so much better when I just tried to immerse myself rather than stood idly by, which I think you could say for a lot of things in life. But when I was actually going up to the door, talking to the people, performing the survey, and Camilla, the nursing student who Connor and I both know, was writing down stuff, I just realized that the more you immersed yourself in the culture and tried to do that, the more you were going to get out of it.
My second week, I went to Crit for the first 3 days, and um, Crit is a government funded kind of children rehabilitation center where children from across the state with either who are either mentally or maybe physically disabled go and they engage in various forms of rehabilitation. You can see here in this picture that I was in the mechanical therapy room, which is where they kind of work on children's movement and their coordination, balance, stuff like that. And I was kind of the guy with the squirter and the paper towel washing everything down if they used. So I was just trying to get involved in any way I could, and you know, it seemed kind of small and pointless, but it's definitely a big help to all of the physical therapists there. Another thing about Crit is that they have a cafeteria there, and all the food and the coffee is super cheap. It's all like under 50 pesos, and that's kind of one of their mottos there is that they serve really cheap food because people come from all over and they drive hours and hours and like get hotel rooms just to spend a week or two at Crit. So Crit really supplies really good and cheap food for them for coming all the way out, which I think is really cool.
Hmm.
Um, so that was my first 3 days there, and then the next 2 days, for some, I believe the volunteers or maybe the physical therapist had a workshop to go to, but the next 2 days I got redirected to Medica Rojas, which I believe is a tier 2 clinic, um, but I'm not entirely sure. And there I was able to go on some surgical rotations. I saw knee replacement surgery, saw went on some rounds with some of the general surgeons, which was really cool. Learning more about the healthcare and kind of what the day-to-day life of doctors is like in Mexico.
And then for our next excursion, we went to Erva Agua, and we did a little bit of hiking there. You can see me and Connor on the right. Look how veiny he is. I mean, what a strong looking guy. And I mean, the view was absolutely beautiful. We ended up walking down a ton of stairs, and it was just atrocious getting back up. But at least for me, Connor's look at that guy's in great shape. You can just tell. But on the left there is one of the pools that's what is naturally made. Is that right?
Yeah,
And so we went swimming in there, but we decided to take a little bit of a photo shoot after just for Vogue or some magazine. People probably wanted to see it, but as we thought it'd be a good idea. You can tell what a 3 weeks of carbohydrates start doing to our bodies. Uh, but yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful view.
yeah. I think that me and Dylan normally are both pretty big hikers, but definitely weren't in the best of shape at this time, so we were struggling on the hike. But it was really cool to kind of again explore the local terrain, swim in those pools, and just kind of have a day off from the rotations and the classes and everything, which was really needed at the time.
I agree. And then our final week, I went to crit, and I really enjoyed it. Like Connor was saying, getting to work with the kids was just awesome. My favorite room was the occupational therapy room where we would play games or help kids sort of learn how to, coordinate their movements, similar to mechanical therapy, but it was really neat to be able to work with kids. I've not really had that kind of opportunity in the United States before. And on the right, it's how modern the building looks. It honestly looks so out of place compared to everything around it. But like Connor was saying, it's funded by the government and by companies like Coca-Cola that pay for it. There's 22 of them in Mexico. And so it's a really kind of uplifting thing to see a building and people just so friendly in the area.
And then for my final week of rotations, I went to Hospital Civil. And similar to what Dylan did, I a few of the days I was working with some of the physical therapists. We saw some patients, explored the hospital a little bit, kind of just in my head was making mental comparisons between the hospitals in America and the hospitals in Mexico, which was um, definitely, definitely, I guess you could kind of say an eye-opening experience. One of the days I got to go on a surgery, I followed some residents around, which was really cool. And all the people in the hospital were very, very welcoming and very nice to me. We tried, again, at this point, my Spanish wasn't exactly the best, but it definitely had improved since the first week. So um, it was definitely, everyone was really nice and really opening to me, which was really made my experience at the hospital a lot better. Really taught me a lot that just like the little bit of effort in trying to um, understand and try to connect with people of different cultures can really go the farthest of ways, especially in that kind of setting. So I think as I reflect more on my time, I think that's one of the biggest things I will take away, that just sometimes the little, just a little bit of time, a little bit of effort can go the farthest away in someone who may feel out of place, which was really, really rewarding.
Yeah, I'll just add, I completely agree with Connor, right? Like even in a US hospital, when you get a Spanish speaking patient, right? I guess you don't always realize what going up to them and speaking Spanish might do for them. They're in a hospital surrounded by people who speak only English, people who don't understand them or not from their background. And so knowing that their life and death hang in your not your hands, but someone's hands there that doesn't even speak their language is definitely something really scary. And to know that they have at least someone there supporting them might make the whole world of difference. Um, and so the picture on the right here was me, Connor, and Abuela. Abuela was our hero. She's great with advice, great with cooking. But we do miss her a ton. And then the left there was our group, all 11 of us, including a mom boss herself. But but it was a blast. And I think the one thing was sort of while you're there, you might get anxious to leave. You might, feel out of place, but really truly you'll never have an experience like that again. I mean, you can have many experiences, but every time you're there, you need to be able to appreciate the moment, which is always hard to do, right? Everyone, especially as pre-med, you're always thinking ahead to the next step. But I think it's huge to be able to appreciate the moment and understand just how cool it is that you're able to do something like this.
Yeah, I completely agree with Dylan. Those in those 3 weeks, I really think I never would have thought that I developed the relationships that I did, even with Dylan and Mom Boss and the rest of the people on the trip. We went through thick and thin with them, and it was really rewarding not only to make those relationships, but also a lot of the relationships with people like Abuela and some of the nursing students and the physical
Mhm.
therapists. I still have a bunch of them on Instagram and social media and stuff, so I'm assuming we're going to stay in touch over the next few months. And it was a completely very unique experience, something a lot of people don't get to do. Um, it's kind of taking yourself away from the touristy side and kind of putting yourself in the driver's seat of kind of what the day-to-day routine of a local maybe
Mhm.
like, which you don't really get from staying in a hotel or staying in an Airbnb and getting up late every day. It really made the experience that much more authentic and real. And I think that's something that we're all going to take with us in the future of our careers in healthcare. Very, very rewarding and very glad that I got the opportunity to go on this trip.
Very well said, Connor. Well, we thank you for listening. And until our next adventure.